Hi friends, thank you for joining me here at World's English Today. My name is Tony and I am here to talk to you about the introduction to the speaking section of the TOEFL exam. As you may or may not know, the TOEFL is a common exam based on North American English to assess the English language learner's ability to succeed if they were to immigrate to the US or Canada, or as a university student in the United States or Canada. I believe Canada also uses the IELTS. The US does also accept the IELTS many places, but the TOEFL is the US or North American version of English, where the IELTS is typically based on the British version of English. So that's the main differences. The one other key difference is with the IELTS, you complete the speaking section with a live examiner, and the TOEFL is an internet-based test, and you will record your answers into the computer when you take the TOEFL speaking exam. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, so you may or may not still be able to see me, but most importantly, you should be seeing my screen. Introduction to the speaking section. Our goal today is to examine the different types of questions you can expect to encounter on the TOEFL speaking section. World's English also has introductions to reading, writing, and listening, as well as the speaking section. And there are, as you can see here, there are 7 lessons in the speaking section. In the speaking curriculum. So we offer 7 lessons on preparing to pass the speaking section of the TOEFL exam. And it's recommended that if you have time that you take all 7 lessons. But if you don't have time, whether you have time or not, you should take our free level test. And I will include the link to the level test, or you can find it and request it at worldsenglish.net, or you can email us at support@worldsenglish.net, and we can send that link for the level test to your email address. The importance of the level test is because it's a gap analysis. So that means that it determines where your strengths and your weaknesses are in the English language. And depending on where your weaknesses are, we use that information to create a personal English action plan. So it designs a curriculum for you to help you overcome your weak areas and improve more quickly. You should be at least an upper intermediate or B2 level of English before you attempt the TOEFL exam. If you take the level test and you determine that your level is lower than that, it will be very important to complete the lessons in the personal English action plan to bring your level up to the appropriate level that it needs to be to attempt the exam. And then once you are at that B2 or upper intermediate level, you can start the preparation lessons for the TOEFL. There's no particular order. I recommend starting with your weakest area first. So if you're weakest in writing, start with the writing lessons. Or you can mix them up. You know, take maybe one lesson from each section during the week if you can do 4 lessons a week. Excuse me. But we can talk about those things when you complete your level test, because we will have a consultation meeting to discuss your results and create your personal English action plan. So through the speaking section preparation lessons, the 7 lessons, we will talk about the different types of questions on the speaking section and what criteria the examiners use to score the exam, or TOEFL IBT uses to score the exam. Let's see. Okay, so the questions that we will encounter are used to teach the skills that you need to pass the exam. They're not going to be the exact same questions that you'll see on the exam. And we don't recommend that you memorize questions from the exam anyway. It's more important that you learn the skills you need to pass or do well on whatever question is presented to you. Let's see. We won't focus on vocabulary and grammar very much in the lessons. You should have a pretty good ability to communicate using various vocabulary and some good grammar skills before you start these lessons. If there is a particular area that you need help in grammar, we can do a supplemental lesson on that grammar topic to help you improve with that. Okay, so let's go ahead. All right, so, okay. So if you've taken the speaking section or the TOEFL exam in general before, you might remember that the speaking section is not first. It's the third section on the test. It's after the reading and listening section and before writing. It takes about 20 minutes and you're limited to that time, and that's not much time at all. So you have to get very good at answering these questions within the time limit, because you'll be cut off at the end of the time. And that will hurt your score if you don't finish presenting your ideas in an organized manner that you'll learn. You'll learn the template for that. There are 6 questions. The first 2 are independent questions, and the last 4 combine speaking with reading or listening skills. So in those, you'll read a passage and then you'll speak about it, or you'll listen to recording and speak about it. You'll be given a question that you respond to. You will be given between 15 and 30 seconds to prepare your answer. You must be very good at taking notes, writing keywords, and you must have an organized method for these notes and keywords so that they help you to present your answer in an organized manner. And you will learn some tips and tricks for your notes and the structure of your presentation of your answers in the course. You will be given either 45 seconds or 60 seconds to respond, depending on which question it is, which type of question. It's not very long. It might sound like a long time, but it really isn't. So many people feel they're more proficient in speaking than in the other topics, but you can't just answer the question and rattle off whatever comes to your mind. You need an organized response. So it's still very important to take the lessons and learn the right structure for your answers in the speaking section. Okay, so think about what areas of your spoken English you would like to improve before the test. And then when we have your consultation and prepare your plan, we can talk about that. Okay. Okay, so you're going to have 15 seconds to look at the question below and prepare a 45-second response. So you're going to get a little longer because I don't have my timer set up yet. So go ahead and get a piece of paper and a pen to write notes on. And then we'll start. Okay, so all right. Okay, so go ahead and look for 15 seconds. And at the end of the 15 seconds, I'm going to stop the video. All right. Now, now you should have prepared a response. And now I want you to pause this video, and you should state your answer. I will put it back up on the screen. You should state your answer into a recording and time yourself for 45 seconds. Okay, at the end of the 45 seconds, you need to stop, even if you're not finished. And this is something you will do with a teacher in the preparation course. You will practice these types of questions. So, okay. I think I actually did continue to share the screen and stop my video, so so much for that, but the timing was pointless. But anyway, what you need to do is take a practice question, give yourself 15 seconds to prepare and 45 seconds to respond, record your response, and then listen to it. See if it sounds good, see if it sounds organized. Okay, are you happy with the response? Okay, and when you practice with a teacher, your teacher will be taking notes on your response and will give you feedback. And this is the kind of things that you'll want to think about. Okay, the raters are going to be looking for certain things. Other students have shared how they feel when they answer this type of question. Maybe you feel the same way they do. One student said, "I like speaking, but my biggest issue is speed. I speak fast in my own language, and I try to do the same in English. Of course, this makes me get tongue-tied if I can't find the correct word." Another student says, "The questions are so broad that it's very easy to go off topic. It's impossible to say everything in just 45 seconds. Well, it is possible, but it takes practice." Okay, you have only 15 seconds to prepare. It's just not enough. If I had more time, I could think of better words to use. Okay, and that's why it's so important to have a strong vocabulary before you prepare for the TOEFL, because these words should come to you pretty easily. You should be able to think of, you should know a few synonyms for any word that presents the idea that you're trying to convey, so that one of those synonyms hopefully will come to mind for you when you are under pressure to do it in a limited amount of time. It can be very difficult. It's difficult for native speakers sometimes to come up with words when we're under pressure. So as your second language, it's even harder. Okay. Okay, so what the raters are looking for, how they are scoring, they're looking at your delivery. How did you speak? Was it too quick? Was it too slow? In other words, did you finish too soon? Or did you not finish in time? Okay, are you able to do it within the time allotted to you? Do you speak in a manner that's easily understood? Most of the time, we don't look at your accent so much, but if your accent is so strong that it makes it difficult to understand you, then it may be a concern, and you may need to work on some accent reduction as well. Use of the language. Does your response include appropriate vocabulary? Are you able to use synonyms? Are you able to find the words you need to convey your ideas? They don't have to be huge words. You don't have to speak a fancy vocabulary, but you need to be able to convey what's on your mind. Your sentences should not all be the same style, the same length and complexity. They should vary because that's what we do with natural language. Do you make grammar mistakes? Some minor grammar mistakes might not hurt you too much, but if you're making constant and severe grammar mistakes, then you need to work on those areas, either as a supplement in addition to your TOEFL course or prior to beginning your TOEFL course. But you should get those errors under control as much as possible. Do you develop the topic? Are your ideas coherent and logical? You know, you're not over here talking about one thing and then off here talking about another thing. Do the ideas relate? Do they make sense? Are they logical? And do you support your ideas with evidence or reasons or ideas? Do your ideas link to each other? How are they related? Okay, those are the kind of things they'll be looking for in your response. Okay. And as I mentioned, everyone has an accent. It's not going to hurt you on the exam. The grader is not going to grade you lower because of your accent, unless it is so strong that you're not understandable. We can't understand what you're saying, and in that case, your teacher should convey this to you and should let you know that you need to work with your teacher on accent reduction. And to be honest, I've only seen it with a couple students. Most students' accent is clear enough that they can be understood. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that unless your teacher mentions it. Your mother tongue will have an effect on your intonation in English. What's intonation? If I were to talk to you like this and sound monotone and the same through everything I said, I am not using any intonation. But the way I talk normally, my voice goes up and down. I stress some things, stretch them in and out, you know. That's intonation. That is natural. You don't want to sound exactly the same with every word and have every word be exactly the same length when you speak, because you sound like a robot, right? You don't want to be a robot. Okay, the raters are not looking for perfect pronunciation and intonation, but you know, do the best you can and make sure you're understandable. Don't worry about sounding like a native English speaker. that's not necessary to do well on the exam. Okay, so are you pretty happy with your accent when you speak English? Do other English speakers seem to understand what you're saying? If so, then you're probably okay. All right. What's next? It didn't change. Okay. All right, you're going to hear a response to the question below. Read the questions before you listen, and then provide an answer to each question. Okay, so go ahead and read this question. I'll give you a second. Okay, the question is, what is your happiest memory as a child? Describe it and explain why it is your happiest memory. Okay. We should have a recording for that. And I don't see it. Oh, it's right here. Okay. All right, so let's listen.
Well, I think, like most children, the happiest memory for me was when I used to go on vacation with my family during the summer break. Mostly, I loved the freedom that I had away from the routine, and additionally, it was a great way to reconnect with nature. When we were on vacation, it meant that I had free time. I didn't have a timetable to follow. I think it's important for children to have time that is truly free, and I know that vacations were good for my imagination. Also, because I grew up and still live in a very large city, I love being in nature on vacation. I know that it was good for my health to be away from the city. The combination of freedom and nature is good for everyone, and it's certainly why childhood vacations are my happiest memories.
Okay, so what do you think of that response? Was the candidate's speed good? I think so. I think it was a pretty good speed. Do you think he used the entire 45 seconds well? Well, he should have had a structure where he introduced the idea and then, or the question basically, and then presented his two ideas with support behind them and then summarized. So do you think he did that? Could you understand him speaking clearly? Do you feel that he used appropriate vocabulary? And did he use simple and complex sentences? Okay, so those are the kinds of things that the examiner will be listening for when they listen to your recording. Okay. Okay, now we're going to listen again, and we're going to listen to how well the topic is developed. Okay, so again, here's the question. What is your happiest memory as a child? Describe it and explain why it is your happiest memory.
Well, I think, like most children, the happiest memory for me was when I used to go on vacation with my family during the summer break. Mostly, I loved the freedom that I had away from the routine, and additionally, it was a great way to reconnect with nature. When we were on vacation, it meant that I had free time. I didn't have a timetable to follow. I think it's important for children to have time that is truly free, and I know that vacations were good for my imagination. Also, because I grew up and still live in a very large city, I love being in nature on vacation. I know that it was good for my health to be away from the city. The combination of freedom and nature is good for everyone, and it's certainly why childhood vacations are my happiest memories.
Okay, how did the speaker perform? What did he do well? What do you think he did well? I wish I could hear your responses, but we are recording live today, but it's just me. So you'll be watching the recorded version of that. So, if you do want to respond to any questions I have, you're welcome to send me a message. Send me an email at support@worldsenglish.net, or you can go on the worldsenglish.net website, and there is a link to send a message in the bottom right corner in the widget. So anyway, back to our response. Do you think that the speaker made any serious errors? What area of language do you think this speaker needs to concentrate on? Okay. Let's go ahead again. All right, so now you're going to hear a speaker answer the same question again, but this is a different response. Okay, once again, the question is, what is your happiest memory as a child? Describe it and explain why it is your happiest memory.
For me, my happiest childhood memory is, well, it's going to the cinema. I liked it because we did it together as a family, and because I grew up in a village, it meant that we would travel to the city for the day. As a child, I didn't spend much time with my parents. They both worked a lot, so when we went to the cinema, it also meant that I would be spending time with my parents, which I love to do. Secondly, if we went to the cinema, it was a day in the city. We would always do a little shopping before watching the movie, and my parents will always take me to a restaurant afterwards. So, going to the cinema meant having a great day out with my parents.
Okay, great. I like that response. What did you think? Do you think it's better than his previous response? And if you do, or even if you don't, why? Why do you think it's better or worse? Okay, and what do you think he could have done better with this response? Do you think his delivery was timely? Did he did he give us a full response in the time allotted? Was he easy to understand? Did he make any grammar mistakes? Do you think he used appropriate and good vocabulary? Did he stick to the topic, or did he talk about something else? Did he support his responses? Okay, so you can rewind and listen to that again and consider each of these questions. All right. So as I mentioned, there are 6 questions in the speaking section. First 2 questions test your speaking skills, while the last 4 test reading, listening, and speaking skills. So they're kind of combination questions. You'll be required to read a passage and then answer a question about it, or listen to a passage and answer a question about it. So the first 2 questions are based on a personal experience and paired choice. And then the remaining questions for listening and speaking are based on campus matters. They might be something about what you would do if you had a certain issue on campus. And throughout the course, you will see examples of the types of questions you'll have in these areas. So, the academic reading and lecture, you will read a passage and listen to a professor make a comment about the passage. He may agree or disagree with it, he or she, and then you will be discussing not only the passage but also what the professor said in the follow-up to that. There will be questions on campus conversations, and there will be an academic summary. Okay, and you'll see examples of all of those. All right. Okay, so here's to the important part. How do you prepare for the exam? You need to use your preparation time very wisely. And this is the 15 seconds, 15 to 30 seconds that you have to prepare and take notes, okay, after you listen to the question. So you'll read the passage or listen to the passage, listen to the question, and then you'll have 15 seconds to prepare your response. So get very good at taking notes and preparing an organized response. Okay, you will learn by heart, you will memorize an answer template for each question type. You will practice so many times that you will commit that to memory. And it's important that you have that template in your memory so that you give a response that is organized in the manner that it's expected to be presented. Okay, so from the time you have between now and until you take the exam, you'll be learning those. Okay, and of course you need to work within time limits associated with each question. And as I said earlier on the first practice question, record yourself. Okay, and when you're recording yourself, when you're practicing alone, think about one element of the scoring category that you wish to monitor and check it. Okay, let's go back to that. So think about delivery. In other words, like time. Are you doing it within the time limit? Are you giving a complete response during the time allowed? Okay, and then maybe the next time you practice it, pay attention to your grammar. Did you get through the whole thing using correct grammar? Or did you slip? It's harder when you're speaking than when you're doing grammar lessons to maintain correct grammar. Okay, so monitor each item individually when you're first practicing. And then as you go along, as you practice more, you'll start to monitor all of those things together. And you'll also do that with your teacher. Okay, so you may start out very slow and find that it's very difficult to answer in the time given. So of course you're going to, one of your first decisions will be to increase your speed. Okay, so then the next time you record yourself, you try to increase your speed a little bit. Maybe if you got a little further in your response, then you're improving. Okay, just lots of practice, that's what's important. One more thing, I think, let's see. It is important when you're practicing alone to time yourself always, because you need to get used to what that amount of time feels like. So always stick to those time limits. Okay, the questions shown previously are personal experience questions. Okay, this one is one type of the two independent questions. So in the personal experience question, they always ask about a familiar topic. You don't need to possess a deep understanding of any specific topic to answer these questions. They're going to be something everyday, something that you know about related to you personally. The other independent question type is paired choice. Okay, a paired choice question, you are presented with two choices and you need to choose one of them. In the other 4 question types, you'll be presented with integrated exercises that incorporate reading text and or audio recordings, as we mentioned before. So what kind of question is a personal experience question? What kind of question might you be asked? Excuse me. All right. Well, we'll see some examples of those. But it might be your opinion on something or something you do every day. Okay. All right, let's look at the integrated questions. So the other 4 question types, as we discussed, are integrated, and they incorporate a reading text or an audio recording. There will be a Campus Matters question. That means it has something to do with academic study or everyday life or problems you might encounter at a university. Okay, so you'll read a short text or listen to a conversation and provide an answer that summarizes the text and the student's opinions. For example, it might be a question about what you would do if you had a problem with another student in the dorm. Okay, that's just an example. I don't think that question is on the test, but it's an example. Okay, academic reading and lecture questions. In those, you'll read a text, listen to a lecture, and provide an answer that connects information from both sources of information. So the 2 sources might be reading and listening. There will be possibly a passage you read and the professor you listen to, as I mentioned before. Okay, campus conversation questions. You listen to a conversation that includes a problem and possible solutions. You provide an answer that supports the best solution. So you have to choose which one do you think is the best solution and why. Okay, and academic summary questions. You listen to a lecture. You provide an answer that summarizes the main points. So you're just summarizing what you listened to. What do you think people might talk about in a campus conversation question? Okay. Might be similar to a Campus Matters question, but it might be more conversational than solving a problem. Okay. All right. All right, before you take the test, you should think about your current use of the language. You may want to focus on grammar, vocabulary, and your ability to use complex sentence structures. Okay. So here's some little practice questions. It says answer the question that follows each passage below. So here's the question. All right, so it says, I'm super happy that I met that guy. I mean, he's kind of excellent. Okay, so looking at this sentence, how could you improve this grammar? How can that grammar be better? He's kinda, what does that mean? He's kinda excellent. So kinda is slang, kind of kind of slang, isn't it? It's slang for kind of. We don't want to use slang when we're taking the exam. So you could say, I'm super happy that I met that guy. I mean, he's kind of excellent. Okay, how about this one? I like movies. Actually, I love movies. But I think that movies today are much better than black and white movies that people used to make. Okay, how can you improve the vocabulary in this sentence? Maybe you can think of some synonyms for love. Maybe you adore movies. Or you can say, I'm crazy about movies. But I think that movies today are much better than black and white movies that people used to make. What's another synonym for maybe for much better? Maybe you could say, I think that movies today far exceed the black and white movies that people used to make. Are much more entertaining. You know, you can try to use a little more, a little higher level of language. You don't need to be crazy about that. You don't have to have high level vocabulary in every single sentence. Your sentences you do want to vary them in length and complexity just to sound natural. But definitely think of some synonyms and different ways you can say things. Okay, how about this one? Education is important at every age. Education is important when you are young. If you have a good education when you are young, you'll find it easier to get a good job. Okay? So it's a simple sentence. It's long, but it's simple. So can you express this same idea using a more complex sentence? By using more complex vocabulary, you can shorten this sentence and actually make it a little more direct and a little less like rambling. Let's see if I can think of an example here. Education is more important at every age. Education is important when you are young. If you have a good education when you are young, you'll find it easier to get a good job. Okay, the importance of education at a very young age, or the importance of attaining a good education at a young age, cannot be understated, as a good education will lead to greater job prospects. That's just one example. That's my own words. So you may say it a different way, but that's an example how you can use a little more complex words and maybe create one sentence out of all three of these. Make it a little simpler to read. Okay. Developing the topic. So I've mentioned several times that you'll need to have a template and you'll need to take notes. Now, I can't understate that. It's so important. It's really key. It's really necessary to do well on the TOEFL exam. It'll help you stay on topic. It'll help you organize your support for your answer. And it will help you relate your ideas with each other so that it's more connected and coherent. Okay. So we're going to start by reading this text. I'll go ahead and read this out loud to you. Okay. I guess my photo albums are the most important thing in my life. I've been taking photos since I was young, and I've always enjoyed printing photos and putting them into albums. I probably have 30 photo albums that contains all the most important people and events in my life. Although we can post photos on social media today, a photo album is a better method of keeping memories. For example, a photo album is a chronological history. That is, it shows how your life changes over time. Further, I return time and time again to my photo albums. while a photo on social media has a short lifespan. If my house was on fire, my photo albums would be the first thing I would try to take. Okay, so do you feel the same way about your photos? I think we all do. Those photos are the most important ways for us to retain our memories, right? Okay. So what do you think was the main question in this passage? What is the question? Okay. Do you think this is for a personal experience question? Does it seem like a genuine spoken answer to you? Do you feel that the student spoke this answer? All right. How do you feel about the language used? Is the vocabulary good? Was the grammar correct? Okay, so we're going to break this down a little bit. And what we see here is this text provides two key ideas, okay, and supporting details for each of the ideas. So take a look at the passage. Can you see the two key ideas and the supporting details? So essentially, we need to divide this passage into two parts. Okay, so I think that this is where we divide it. I'm not very good at drawing a straight line here. I think our first idea is about the importance of the photo album. Okay, and how they are an important record or memoir of the people and events in your life. Okay, I think the second idea is about photo albums and how we, well, the whole thing's about photo albums, but how we keep a photo album as a chronological history. Okay, we can relive our life and how our life has changed over time. Okay, so what do you think? Do you think that my assessment of the two ideas is correct? Maybe your assessment is different. Maybe you feel that the idea of protecting your memories from disaster like a house fire was an idea. Okay, so it's important that you have a clear delineation so there's no question about that. All right. So if we think that the photo album being the most important thing is the main idea of this part, what are the supporting ideas for that? Okay. The most important people, maybe, and the most important events in that person's life. You know, those are main ideas supporting why the photo album is the most important thing in this person's life. Okay. All right, let's talk about linking and transition words. This is one of the few areas we will learn some vocabulary, and hopefully you already know most of the vocabulary. You will have a lesson that will help you work on this specifically. And really, the transition and linking words just kind of help to do exactly what it says, link the ideas and transition from one idea to the other. So let's see if we can choose the answers for this. See if we can fill in the blanks. Okay, so the first one we have is, I believe more than anything that climate change is the most important topic today. Many politicians continue to ignore it. Okay. So we need a transition word here. Which one do you think goes here? I'm thinking nevertheless. Okay, how about this one? Blank, obesity is increasing around the world. Governments are generally not doing enough to educate people about unhealthy diets. Okay, so for this one, I would go with even though. Or although would be another choice. It's not on the list up here. Okay, it is difficult to change the situation. Blank, we stopped using coal tomorrow. We would continue to feel its effect on years to come. Okay, which one do you think goes here? Even if. All right, next one. The city built too many new apartment buildings without proper planning. Blank, the city experienced increased traffic jams in a few years. Only one left, right? But no, it's not the only one left. We have only 4. Oh, okay. So what did we not use? Likewise. Okay, likewise is kind of the same. Okay. All right, so what did you think? Do you think you're prepared for the TOEFL speaking exam? Or do you think you need to practice? I hope you're saying you think you need to practice. I do want to share with you what lessons are available in the TOEFL speaking exam. So I'm just going to pull up my little teacher portal here. Hopefully you're still seeing, yeah, I think you're still seeing my screen. Okay, so that's speaking activities. That's not TOEFL. Here we go. TOEFL speaking. So the other lessons are personal experience questions, paired choice questions, campus matters questions, academic and reading lecture questions, campus conversation questions, and academic summary questions. So you'll be seeing those lessons appear on the schedule over the next few weeks, and if they're not there already, and I encourage you to go ahead and enroll in those and reserve your space because they do fill up quickly. Right now, there are only 5 seats per lesson, 5 spaces, 5 students in a lesson. Hopefully that will be raised a little bit in the future, but for right now, it's important to get in there as quickly as you can. If you have any questions, please go to worldsenglish.net, and in the bottom right corner, you'll see the link to send us a question, and you can contact me with your questions. And otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in your next lesson. Thanks for visiting. Thanks for watching today, and have a great day. Bye-bye.